Oh, do I have a show for y'all. So, you remember way back, I ported my first CS 590, Echo 590. Remember this top cover? It's kind of wine colored or maroon. I built it for my buddy Andreas, and he had a tree fall on it, whenever felling it got stuck in there, broke the brake lever, broke his handle. So he went ahead and upgraded the handle to a full ramp, and I put the new brake on there. But whenever I was asking him about the, he talked about how much he loves this saw. He loves it, right? And and I was like, well, I can actually take it a little bit further. And he's like, no, don't touch it. Power-wise, it's amazing. He loves it. So I said, okay, all right. And so what this is the 590 that was ported by me. I put a 620 piston in it, but it's not a pop-up. It is not a pop-up. It's just got a new 620 piston in it. And if I remember correctly, the port timing was very unradical. I think on the exhaust I was at 108, because I knew that I was going to keep the stock coil, and the stock coil on these things are limited. So it's still got a high exhaust because, high RPMs was not an option because the coil won't allow it to pull high RPMs anyways. So it's got a 108 on the exhaust. The intake is probably somewhere around 78 or 80, something like that. And the transfer is probably around 20, 22, 24, whatever. Maybe at the end of this video, I'll get my book and I'll see what the actual numbers are on this. But I was pretty disappointed with it, but I was like, you know what? I bet you if it breaks in, it's going to be nice. Well, I just ran it and it's running really strong. I also just ran this and it's running really strong. So I've got them both tuned up really well, or I think anyways. This is my 590 that I've fully converted to a 620. 620 cylinder, 620 piston, 620 coil, 620 carburetor. Both of these have had the carburetor governing jet plugged off with JB Weld. Actually, I think that one's got the actual jet, the actual replacement jet. This is my first time running this with that high jet closed off. And what can I tell you about that? I can tell you that I had it running so lean on the high jet before that whenever I fired this thing up, it would literally die, shut off whenever I throttled it. That's how lean it was. It was getting fed completely by that governing jet. So we should hopefully see a big improvement in this thing's power capabilities now that I have that high jet governor clogged and plugged up. So without further ado, we're going to give this thing a run for its money. We're going to, this one will probably get 3 cuts because just want to get through this to where it's somewhat close in size. And maybe we'll just do 2 cuts. Nah, I don't know. But I definitely want to do one where I am reading the tack and seeing what it's pulling in the cut. This is basically, it is a 620 ported by me. It's my Echo Timberwolf. Or I call it the Dire Wolf. Boy, that's terrible. Well, I thought that I had it tuned up in that poplar. Turns out, obviously, I didn't. So, let me check, make sure I'm still recording. Yeah, we're recording. So let's see if this thing's tuned up real good before we actually start the racing. All right, let's give this one more go. That was 10,900, 11,000 in the cut, in 20 inches of oak. Now we're going to dog it in. Okay. Okay, here we go. First run is going to be how many RPMs? Up until halfway, it was over 11,000. Once I got to halfway, it dropped down to 10.9. Yeah, so I'm happy at this point. Very happy. because that is a 590 cylinder running as good as a 620. Okay, so I don't know what y'all just saw, but I know what I just felt. And I think that beat it on both cuts. Now, it is critical to point out that at this point, this thing has 15, 20 gas tanks through it. I don't know, since I ported it. Maybe it's got 100. I don't know, but it's definitely broken in. Whereas my 620, it's only got one tank of gas. It's on its second tank right now. So it's got about a tank and a half ran through it since the rebuild. And we all know that these Echos take a long time to break in. However, that 620 has not an unlimited, it has a higher limit on its coil, and it has a larger carburetor. This still has the 590 carburetor, and it has the 590 ignition coil. So it is definitely, I guess, being held back by that versus what the 620 has. So now, I mean, damn, that 590 is running excellent. Now, I'm sure that this was close to it, right? Both of them were doing 10.9 in the cut all the way through. This one was doing over 11 at the beginning. Okay, so at the beginning, it was revving higher than the 620. Things got to break in. Got to break in. I don't know. I think that this one was faster in the tug up as well. I don't truly know, but we'll find out. The video will show us. Ta-da! Okay, so that was a good race, wasn't it? There's also some stuff that I know that you guys don't know, because after this race, I was so impressed with that 590 and, you know, the Direwolf as well. I was so impressed with the 590, though, that I was like, you know what? We got to see how this thing does against the 562 and the MS 400. So, anyways, so let's recap real quick. The winner of this here race is the 590 that I built for Andreas. This was my first ever attempt at porting a 590. It needed a new piston, so I was like, well, might as well get the 620 piston, you know, put it in there so that it has the double rings and it'll hopefully have the same, you know, compression, you know, like the 620 does. The exhaust timing went to 103. The intake was 78, right? Let me go back here and check. Okay, yeah, intake was 78, exhaust was 103, blowdown was 20 degrees, and the squish, I had cut the base, and the squish was 26 thousandths. So now we know the numbers, and you can replicate this build possibly. If you want to see this build, just go to my actual porting video of that saw, and it is titled Full Port for an Echo 590 Timberwolf. So anyways,
clearly it worked out great. And clearly the 620 needs to get broken in. Man, these things are hard to tune. That's the one like real Achilles heel to me. The 620, I mean, the 590 settled in and tuned up all right, but the 620 just constantly crackly and crap. Really, really hate that. But as long as you're digging, it cleans up, But it's kind of hard to get a nice, smooth tune on these saws. It is really a pain in the butt. But I can see now, after having ran it again, because after I ran it the first time, I was really unimpressed. It really didn't do all that good. It like basically barely beat. I think it barely beat the Direwolf whenever it had the stock a 590 cylinder on it. Which it was kind of disappointing. But anyways, clearly it broke in and it's running great. And I see why Andres is like, I love it. Because, man, it really cuts great. You guys know, if you watch the channel, I really like my Direwolf now. I've always liked it, but now that it's full on 620 build, I'm like, whoa, this thing runs so good. And, well, this 590 just beat it. So, the cool thing is if you ever wondered, can you make a 590 run as good as a 620? Well, the answer is yes. And this build right here, straight up, it's still got this 590 carburetor and it's got the 590 coil, but it does have the advanced key from Matt Robinson. Look him up. He's called Motorhead Garage, I think. But you can probably find him just by typing in Matt Robinson. Anyways, cool. I'm extremely happy because if you watch the channel, you remember I did the first video and I was like, yeah, this thing runs great. But then I tested it against my other 590 and I was like, oh, it really ain't that great. Now is it? Well, now that it's broken in, clearly it is. It's really hauling butt. And it's a nice saw. Very nice saw. So next up, you can expect to see... I'll probably, because we want to see hits, right? It's a YouTube channel, right? I will probably actually put out the 562 versus the 590 and the 562 versus the 620 and the 400. We'll do it all. Boom, 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 boom. All four of those will be interweaved and fighting against each other. I personally do know what the winner is, but you gotta watch the videos. Later, guys.